TikTok is possibly being banned again in the US.
They want to ban TikTok.
The new TikTok bill says that if you try to use a VPN to circumnavigate the ban, you could go to prison for 20 years.
You need to put extreme pressure on your senators. Whoever those two people are, wherever you are in the United States, I mean, yes, you need to call their office, but you need to also show up at their office.
Why are they focusing on banning TikTok instead of, doing something of value for the American people?
Welcome to CargoCult.
Welcome.
I am Michelle Greenstein. I'm joined by Naomi Caravani, and today we're joined by the very hilarious Pat Burgess.
Hello.
Are you on TikTok?
I just started using it because I thought it would be great to go in the building while it was on fire.
Like a hero.
I'm in there trying to save it. I'm trying to save TikTok.
You can start posting really pro Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio content so that they see it and maybe don't want to ban it anymore. So I guess it is only fair for us to talk about the TikTok ban coming through the U.S. Congress right now. The bill passed the House. It has to pass the Senate. Biden says if it does pass the Senate, he will sign it. It's pretty much a ban, even though Nancy Pelosi says it's not a ban. She said it's just an effort to make TikTok better, tic-tac-toe a winner. I don't know if you guys caught that.
She short-circuited and
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner. This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner.
Tic-tac-toe.
She didn't even cross the line that she made.
She obviously plays by her own rules.
Yeah. So our lawmakers are saying it's not a ban. We're just trying to force a sale, right? But if you read the bill, it's clear that this will lead to an effective ban in the U.S. because under Chinese export law, ByteDance can't sell under these conditions, right? China has trade restrictions, just like many countries have this. And our lawmakers, they obviously know this. They want to ban TikTok, right? But they want to put the onus on China. They want to say, we didn't make you go away. We just said you had to sell to a U.S. company, right?
It's like when an older brother's or an older sibling's like, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself.
But yeah, so a lot of people are mad. A lot of people in this country make a living on this app. Unfortunately, through the partner program, a lot of young people are supplementing their income, and the job market is not really great right now, and so this is going to take a lot of money out of average people's pockets.
So many people, average people like me and you, have found a way to make some extra income from this app. I do not know how the fuck else I would have been able to save up $20,000 for a down payment on a home in the past 4 months if it wasn't for this app.
Instagram and Facebook don't pay their content creators anything. And for the longest time, YouTube was the only social media platform that you can make money off of. That is, until TikTok came along. Now, so many people's livelihood is tied to this app.
So that's upsetting. I know you guys can't relate to that, but
yeah, our numbers are better on Instagram, so we're biased.
It's more of an emotional connection to the Meta family of social media app.
And my father was a Facebook. And his father was a MySpace.
And then whoever's using TikTok is imagine if they were taking away Instagram just to get us to understand them. What? Oh, now I get it. And then we tell our parents, imagine they were taking away Facebook.
Yeah, and then we tell our great-great-grandparents, imagine if they were taking away
the mail.
Yeah. Okay, so the U.S. is posturing, saying this is about privacy, right? But obviously, the U.S. Congress could pass privacy laws if they wanted to, if they were really concerned about data. But then, of course, that would affect the U.S. companies that are making very similar apps with also unbridled access to our information and data. So it's if you want to be against kids having their data be collected, at least be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And all that information is going to data brokers. If China really wanted our information, they could just get it from any one of those companies.
So there's, I think, two basic schools of thought about why this is happening now, right? One is that it's just business. TikTok's US revenue is predicted to reach $7.74 billion this year. That's predicted to grow over the next few years. Obviously, TikTok steals market share from Meta, right? From Instagram and Facebook. And like when India banned TikTok, Meta benefited, obviously. But TikTok has also kind of stepped on Google's game a little bit in many ways. People search for things on TikTok more and more now, right? I would never search for, a restaurant on Google anymore. I'm going to get better information and results from TikTok. And so TikTok steps on Meta's game, TikTok steps on Google's game, and TikTok has also started to step on Amazon's game. Have you guys seen TikTok Shop?
Mm-mm.
So for a while, people were doing like affiliate marketing on TikTok, like most social media platforms, but it would take you to an Amazon link. But now TikTok has its own shop. Now it's a direct competitor to Amazon, right? So that's like not chill with Amazon, right?
Yeah, because they want a monopoly.
But also on TikTok, first of all, the prices are cheaper for many items, but also you don't need a membership. There's free shipping. So just if you're on TikTok and you want to buy something, why would you close the app and go to Amazon?
And is it also because TikTok's basically like, we're getting it from the factory that Amazon buys it from?
Yeah.
So we're cutting out the middleman. Who is Amazon?
You're buying it definitely from the child who made it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the big Amazon like sellers are just going to like Alibaba and getting a bunch of cheap products and then relisting them on Amazon.
It's just hilarious that something like Amazon is pissed off about this when they've closed so many brick and mortar mom and pop shops, and they're like, well, this is affecting us now. It's like, well, stop fucking with everyone else's business.
Yeah, what's the matter? You don't like free market capitalism anymore, Basie?
Yeah. No, I want to be the king of fucking selling shit.
So a lot of people are saying that this is just, basic like thuggish US corporations kind of using the government to do their bidding, right?
That's a nice video sharing app you got there. Would be a shame if something happened to it.
All these companies lobby the government, obviously, right? To the tune of millions. Meta, 19.3 million last year. Alphabet, 14.4 million last year. And who is this? Oh, Amazon, 19.8 million.
Yeah.
And do they do this kind of thing just for fun because they have money to throw around? No. Obviously, they are expecting a return on their investment, right? They want legislation that favors them when the time comes.
Yeah.
So there's that perspective, right? And Paris Marx, who has a tech podcast, said, imagine if a country passed a law saying Facebook or Google had to sell to a non-US owner, it would be banned from a particular country. I hope this wakes people up to how US tech companies have always been an element of U.S. geopolitical power. So that's one school of thought, right? What's the other one? The other one is that the timing seems a little fishy with regard to what's happening right now in occupied Palestine. People are saying that because TikTok is like, obviously a major source of news and information for people, that Israel is kind of freaking out and they're putting pressure on Congress.
Yeah, there's too many IDF soldiers like going into ransacked homes and trying on the lingerie and dancing around in them. They're like, we need this is making Israel look bad.
I'm so surprised that the IDF doesn't have like more strict restrictions. I guess I'm not also
on TikTok because the U.S. Army has had to have so many.
Yeah, and I think that's the move when you are an army. Like maybe we don't advertise the crimes online.
Yeah, didn't we learn anything from Vietnam?
Yeah. But the key there is that I think here we see all the TikToks that IDF soldiers make and we're like, what the fuck? How is this allowed to happen? But domestically in Israel, like that population sees those videos and they're like, yeah, like they don't think it's messed up. So I guess that's why it's not as taboo. But anyway, did you guys hear that Steven Mnuchin, Trump's former Treasury Secretary, is putting together investors to buy TikTok?
Yeah. There's a lot of suitors for TikTok. There's a lot of guys being like, I'll take it off your hands.
And Mnuchin is, of course, reported to be friends with the former head of Mossad, Yossi Cohen. So that's fun.
Fun fact for everybody. If you're ever at a dinner party, you're short of something to say, just bring that up.
Mnuchin has a buddy in Mossad.
Anyway, that aside, people are saying that like Palestine is the reason that Congress is pushing for this ban right now. Because Jonathan Greenblatt, who is the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, there was this leaked audio of him saying, quote, we have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem. And he was talking about how we need the same innovative brains that gave us Taglit to now fix this TikTok problem because the young people don't fuck with Israel anymore.
And so we really have a TikTok problem community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tag Lee, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast.
So this is just like a power grab sort of situation where they're like, we want to be able to manipulate our population. We don't want other people to be able to manipulate it.
This is going to limit our free speech and our ability to organize, gather, and protest. We already have evidence of Instagram and Meta suppressing Palestinian content on their apps.
It's bad to have your government try to stifle like free speech and access to information and our ability to organize.
Is the TikTok ban about China or is it about Israel?
So you and I both know that this TikTok ban isn't about China, right? It's all about Palestine. And this is a sign of a much larger shift that's happening in the US right now. And that shift essentially is a shift from a centralized world where information comes from up top to a decentralized world where information comes from each other. And that is a terrifying change for the US empire.
Ultimately, TikTok is a major media platform that a lot of people get their information from, that the U.S. government can't really control. It's a major unfiltered platform they can't control. Right. People have been watching like live footage of a genocide for a while. It's really uncensored reporting. We've been seeing videos coming straight from Palestine. We don't need people on CNN and Fox to tell us what's going on. Like, we can watch it ourselves.
Right.
So even if it is about like business and government corruption and just about like stealing market share from Meta and Amazon, the effect that it's definitely going to have is kind of a more of a censorship and control on independent sources of information and like our ability to protest, organize.
And these could all be reasons for them doing it. They're like, we're doing it for this, and this. Like, it doesn't have to be like one thing. It's like a toxic soup they're trying to put together. Like a gumbo of control, if you will.
Yeah.
It's like the cabbage diet.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
I don't know the intricacies of it, but I know you can have cabbage, and I think you can have as many bananas as you want. I can look it up if you want.
Sounds
but
like
it's
a
like
Russian monkey made it up.
It's kind of like this, right? Where they're like, oh, we're doing it for this reason. And you're like, wait, but you can also have as many bananas as you want? Oh, yeah. But that's not what we're really here about. And it's also funny because you see like all these interviews where, Congress is questioning tech companies and they obviously have no idea what to ask.
Mr. Chu, does TikTok access the home Wi-Fi network?
Only if the user turns on the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry, I may not understand the.
So if I have a TikTok app on my phone and my phone is on my home Wi-Fi network, does TikTok access that network?
It will have to access the network to get connections to the internet, if that's the question.
Is it possible then that it could access other devices on that home Wi-Fi network?
Congressman, we do not do anything that is beyond any industry norms.
It would be great if his next question was like, and what is the Wi-Fi password?
If everyone's on TikTok at the same time, will it go slower?
Yeah, I mean, so this is what TikTok creators are talking about, right? But I think what the U.S. really cares about is not necessarily what China is doing, but what China could do, right? It's the potential that this platform has to shape hearts and minds because it's a very popular platform, right? So they see that and they're like, we could do something with that. Like, I want to do something with that. Like CIA Director William Burns, as far back as 2022, was talking about banning TikTok. And he was like, it's really troubling to see what the Chinese government could do to manipulate TikTok, right? So if you know anything about what the CIA does, I think it's more likely that the CIA is like a way that we could manipulate Americans is through an app like TikTok. So we're just trying to step on their game and steal their technology.
I think it's messed up if it is like ultimately something because they want to be able to manipulate what people can see easier. That's a bit screwed up.
I mean, we know that the US social media companies
already do that.
Yeah, they already do that. I mean, Facebook has for many years been accused of restricting and suppressing Palestinian content, specifically videos that document like Israeli airstrikes or like raids on Sheikh Jarrah and stuff like that. And what do you know? We just learned a month or two ago that this lady, Jordana Cutler, who was at Facebook for years, just got hired to be Israel's director general of the Strategic Affairs Ministry, right? So at the most forgiving interpretation of that is that there's at least mutual goals between those two organizations, right? And at the worst, she was influencing content curation in favor of Israel during her time at Facebook, right? And this is a position that maybe she was perhaps promised, right? I'm speculating, of course, but what's interesting is that the Jerusalem Post even called her, quote, our woman at Facebook in 2020. And so it was kind of nice that, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, while all of these companies either had relationships with our national security apparatus, or their parent company had some sort of relationship with that apparatus. While all that was happening, it was kind of nice that we had TikTok that was a little bit outside of that system. It was nice to have one platform that wasn't US linked.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny they're like so concerned with the youth being radicalized on TikTok when it's like, what, didn't you blame the 2016 election on Facebook and like all the grandmas looking at Trump memes and like MAGA stuff?
Yes, and what was the result of all of that fear mongering about Facebook after that election, right? The result was, just to name one example, Facebook partnering with a Pentagon and NATO funded think tank, the Atlantic Council, to combat, this election related disinformation, misinformation, right? Because, of course, the only reason there could possibly be division in the US citizenry is because Russia is sowing that division. Right. And this happened across the board with all these major social media platforms, having elements of the national security state help with ranking content in people's news feeds so that they couldn't be swayed by quote unquote Russian disinformation.
I think ultimately it would be great if they just told us the truth and then, they're like, this is why we want to get rid of TikTok. Here's the reasons.
Well, I think there are a variety of reasons, and it's been something they've been trying to do for a while. So.
And just as a side note, on day one, you can have no bananas on the cabbage soup diet. There's no bananas. I am so sorry for anyone out there that's like sick. I can have as many bananas as I want. Day one, no bananas.
Here's what I would like to know. How long is the diet? How many days?
7 days. And it said you should not continue to diet for more than 7 days at a time. However, you may repeat the diet if you want. Day one, unlimited cabbage soup and fruit, but no bananas. Day two, only soup and vegetables with a focus on raw or cooked leafy greens. Avoid peas, corn, and beans.
This is not a cabbage diet.
You may also have one baked potato with butter or oil.
This is not a cabbage diet at all.
Day three, eat as many fruits and vegetables as you want in addition to the soup. However, no baked potatoes or bananas.
I feel like I was lied to about these bananas.
This sounds like a diet made by a 4-year-old. Day 4, unlimited bananas, skim milk, and cabbage soup.
Why is every day so different?
I have no idea. It sounds like the stuff the store had trouble selling. Day 5, you can eat 10 to 20 ounces, 280 to 567 grams of beef, which you may substitute for chicken or fish. You may also have up to 6 fresh tomatoes. Drink at least 6 to 8 glasses of water. Day 6, soup, beef, and vegetables. Day 7, you may have vegetables, brown rice, and unlimited fruit juice, but no added sugar.
What about the bananas?
Unlimited fruit juice, so you got to juice your bananas.
Yeah, like it's almost like it started as the cabbage diet, but then baked potato started lobbying, and then ground beef started lobbying to get their amendments to the diet. So I think if we start today,
Yeah.
day 1,
By day like 3, we'd all be losing our minds.
and losing our hair probably.
But we'd look great.
I mean, and what really matters.
So wait, where's the voting?
It's probably going to be held up in the Senate. from what I
Another
understand.
aspect to this, putting on my tinfoil hat, it could also just be that the fear, hype, controversy, and major story about TikTok's banning is in itself the Israeli psyop. So many young Americans are organizing for Palestine right now, like truly to a crazy extent on TikTok. Like Israel could be like, okay, well, let's kind of like split this movement a little bit and let's get people kind of angry about another thing as well.
Right, divided they fall kind of thing.
Yeah, like the ban could not even pull through, but just the story of the ban could have been the goal. It's the thing that people are talking about the most on TikTok. Whereas for the past 6 months,
wow,
people were talking about the most was Palestine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's really interesting, and it is like a crazy thing to just be like, oh, we have to create noise about something else. What can we create noise about? What's the easiest, probably loudest? And it's kind of genius in an evil way.
Speaking of TikTok collecting data, in the early days of quote unquote social media, because now many of these platforms aren't even social media. We don't really hang out with our friends there anymore. We consume media, right? It might as well be another media channel. But in the early days of these social media platforms, I think people didn't really think too much about the information that they were giving companies like Facebook, right? But now it turns out that this company, do you guys like this transition? Is it good?
You're killing it. You're killing it.
This company called Clearview AI has been amassing this massive facial recognition database from data that it scraped from all the social media platforms, right? Everything that's on the open internet, Twitter, LinkedIn, Venmo. And they are now offering that tool to the police, the FBI, ICE.
Critics say that a controversial startup poses a new and profound threat to everyone's privacy with its facial recognition technology. The cutting-edge software can identify people by comparing their pictures to billions of images Clearview has scraped from the social media and the internet.
I always love when they use terms like scrape the internet, you know? It's like we scratched the surface is a little bit, and scraped is like the next.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
It could be, that could be a scar for life.
So it's a search engine, but instead of putting in words when you type someone's name or any kind of information, you upload a photo of someone's face.
So how different is this than Google Images?
Well, Google Images doesn't search based on faces. You can go to type a name in and look at images.
I got you.
So they are the owner of the largest 40 billion.
Billion with a B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The largest known database of facial images sourced from all these public web sources. So news media, mugshot websites, social media. And, you know, I think we can all hear that and go, oh, okay, of course they're scraping from Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, but also like your 6th grade soccer group photo that ended up on the school's website, right? Like anything that's on the public internet.
Right.
Here's the photo you uploaded to me, a headshot from CNN. So first few images it's found a few different versions of that same picture, me with glasses. This is, oh wow, this is from Medium, LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, YouTube. Wow, oh my God, wow.
So it works, right?
This photograph is from my local newspaper where I lived in Ireland. And this photo would have been taken when I was like 16.
Wow.
That's crazy. Something like 15 years ago, I guess. I look very different. I mean, the shape of my face is very different, but this AI technology is looking at what it's looking at.
The unique features, so it learns to ignore things a little bit like the beard and focus on the features that stay the same across different age and everything. So, we're amazed. It's a miracle this thing works. We spent so much time on it, and the results have been amazing for law enforcement.
I mean, there's been this conversation around facial recognition more generally in recent years where researchers have found that this technology is more likely to misidentify people of color, women, trans people. There was a NIST study from 2019 that said that there were a lot of errors with Black and Asian people. There was an MIT study in 2018 that said for women, it was super inaccurate, right? But the thing about Clearview AI is it doesn't really have that problem. It's extremely, I know, right?
Like you wanted it to be bad.
Yeah, because if it just affected like white people, I'd be like, well, it's our turn. You know what I mean?
Other way, it wouldn't have put you in jail for a crime you didn't commit, but it would have put a Black.
Right. Yeah. I see how that works. It's funny how it's like, that's just racism, but from like an AI perspective. It's like all of you look the same to me, so you're all going to jail. Yeah. Okay. So maybe if we're going to implement this, it should be able to tell the difference between everybody.
What's really fun is that even if your Instagram is private now, if it was ever at one time public, all of those photos have already been gathered. And the clear view defense, of course, is that, hey, this is all on the open internet. You know, all we're doing is arranging the information, right? And making it searchable for people like the cops and the FBI. We're not stealing any of these images. They basically say that we're the Google of facial recognition. It's basically just a search engine for faces. Google is not creating these web pages. All Google does is downloads all of these web pages that already exist and makes them searchable. Clearview just downloads these photos and makes them searchable. I mean, I guess if we want to find like a silver lining, like I guess instead of the cops shooting you, instead they will shove an iPhone in your face and like start listening to your Spotify playlist. Be like, oh, this is actually kind of good.
Yeah. So when it started out, like it was super secretive app, and the founder Juan Tontat, Vietnamese name, he's from Australia. I wonder if that's just like a universal name through South America and Asia.
Everyone's named John. If you there's Juan, there's Jean, the French one, there's Johan, there's Gianni, Honey, there's Han, the Danish one, Ivan. Everyone's name is John.
Yeah, Pat is just Irish for John.
So Juan Tontat, he's from Australia. He dropped out of college like most startup founders, most tech founders. And he moved to San Francisco in around 2006, 2007. And he was like just trying to develop different apps. And he was like kind of a scrappy guy.
He was part of the Vietnamese royal family, so I wouldn't say scrappy.
Oh, really?
Oh, shit.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. So that probably helped him, get the door open to Peter Thiel. He's like, I am royalty. He was just like trying out different apps, trying to develop different things. This is like the, kind of app boom period where everybody had an app. One of his was like the Trump hair app where it would just put Trump's hair on you. In 2007, this was an idea he had. So but what's interesting is like Juan Tontat, when he was trying to get investors, he would constantly like court these billionaires, and they would be like, this guy is like associated with Peter Thiel and these weird neo-Nazis, like we don't want to give him any money, but can I have the app? Like, I'm, as a billionaire, I'm meeting, like going to my foreign offices. I don't know all these people. I need like a Shazam for their faces. So all these people would just have the app in the early stages.
That's the only reason I'd want to wear the new Apple glasses, is so I don't forget anyone's name.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, you're like, oh my God, just learn people's names. Like that's like the classic billionaire problem. Like I'm too much of an asshole to like remember people's names. But on the other hand, I do struggle.
And it's like a huge thing in sales, right? Like if you remember someone's name, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah, but it's not going to be impressive to remember someone's name anymore. You're going to know their name, all of their social profiles, all of their Venmo transactions, their Spotify playlists.
You just have like a Bluetooth speaker and you're playing their favorite song. And you order something from their wish list and you just so happen to be holding it.
But yeah, early on in, the seed funding days of Clearview, John Katsimatidis.
And just so you know, this is how he pronounces his name.
He's the billionaire that's owns all the Grustettis in New York. He was like, we got to put this software in all my stores because people are stealing Haagen-Dazs and it's getting out of control. But he has it on his phone, and his daughter walks in to this restaurant he's sitting at. And she walks in with the guy on her arm, and he doesn't know the guy. And so he asks the waiter to take a picture, and he searches the guy, and it's like, he's like, oh, thank God it's a venture capitalist from San Francisco. He's like, I wanted to make sure he wasn't a fraud. And Andrea Katsimatidis, his daughter, she got an enormous amount of plastic surgery. after that. So I wonder if part of it was she was like, I need my dad to not be able to tell who I am. But yeah, her before and after is crazy. She got like the cat plastic surgery.
Yeah.
A different body as well.
Yeah, no, she's had all the surgeries. So it was just funny because she was one of the first targets of that facial recognition software. And she's like, well, I have the money to change that. So when this software was released or, given to a few of these people, billionaires, like Juan was like, please don't tell it anybody. But they all told each other. And then Ashton Kutcher goes on Hot Ones.
Sure. So everyone knows Hot Ones, right? It's the show with hot questions and even hotter wings.
We all want to go on.
So Ashton Kutcher goes on Hot Ones and he goes,
like, I have an app in my phone, in my pocket right now. It's like a beta app. It's a facial recognition app. I could hold it up to anybody's face here and like find exactly who you are, what internet accounts you're on, what they look like. That's terrifying.
You may know him from that 70s show, but he's actually become a venture capital guy. He has a startup fund, A-grade investments, and he like is backing all these different tech companies. So, that came out and people were like, what app was he talking about? Like, what does he have? Why does the celebrity just like have a facial recognition app that you can hold up to anyone's face and see their accounts immediately? But then people kind of put the pieces together like, oh, it must be Clearview because that's exactly what Clearview's app does.
And also, yeah, Juan Tontat talked to Ashton, was like, it was supposed to be secret. And Ashton was like, I didn't say the name of the app.
Yeah. And then if you hold the app up to Ashton Kutcher's face, it goes one of the initial investors.
Yeah. No, Ashton also did not.
Oh, he didn't give him money.
Yeah, see, all these people just like wanted the app, but they were like, first of all, they didn't want to give money because of Wonton Tat's like relationship with the alt-right. But the other thing was they were like aware of how legally this is going to be a problem. It's going to be a liability.
Does this at all like fall under any, there's like unlawful search and seizure sort of stuff? Because it's like without a warrant and all that other stuff.
So basically, Clearview has one of the best liars in the game, Paul Clement, who used to be the Solicitor General for the United States under the Bush administration. And he basically built this whole Fourth Amendment defense, right? So the Fourth Amendment, like you just mentioned, prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures, right? And says, hey, you need a warrant. But Clearview's position is like, no, this is all on the open internet. All we're doing is just making these things searchable. We're not stealing private information. We're taking public information and making a database of it, basically. And so this is why it's interesting to think about like social media, because like when you're uploading your gym selfie, you're not necessarily knowing that that's going to become like used by the cops, And so Clearview's like, well, everyone willingly submitted these photos, but it's like, was it really informed consent? Like, not really.
Right.
You were posing for your school photo in 6th grade and that photo got uploaded to the school website. Like, was that you consenting?
Did you guys happen to watch the Last Week Tonight on data mining?
Talk to us.
One of the takeaways was that they were saying like, some people might be like, oh, whatever, it doesn't affect me. Like, I don't care. It's already on the internet, blah, blah, blah. Right. But then what does happen is what you were already saying was like the law governing bodies and law agencies are just like circumventing search warrants by paying for this data. And it's not legislated yet. So they find this legal loophole. Right. So then there was this Muslim prayer app who was selling their data unknowingly to the FBI. And then they were using it to like monitor Muslim people. Right. And like it's when things like that happen, it's like, oh, shit, this is why we should all care about this.
Good thing the FBI's never been involved in any major scandals. I'm glad they've never abused technology, Like, I think what's great about the cops is that we have no examples of them abusing their power in this country.
That in itself should be used as like precedent for them having to, before they use a new technology, they have to be like, hey, can we do this instead of, it's like do something and ask for forgiveness later or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
What about like the precautionary principle, Isn't that a good way to go about things? Before you let this insane, like the Tasmanian devil out on the internet? How about we talk about it first and be like, these are the possible things that could happen, and we go, oh, do we want that? You know, instead of going, Godzilla and King Kong are already ripping apart the city. How do you guys feel about that? Should we continue to let them do this?
But I mean, the interesting thing is there are some laws that exist. There's an Illinois law that
covers iris scan, all biometrics, right? So it's from 2008. It covers iris scans, voice prints, fingerprints, hand scans, and like any other means to identify a person. And so this is really the only example that we have of like a state law that imposes restrictions on these private entities.
Illinois, for some reason, has the most strict biometric legislation. And so the ACLU brought a case against Clearview, and that's why they can no longer sell to private companies. And so before that, there was a precedent set because Facebook was using facial recognition to tag people's faces in their photos, and you would be automatically tagged, and nobody consented to this before. And they ended up paying all the Illinois residents like nearly $400 each. It's like the best class action lawsuit I've ever heard of. I mean, I'm only getting $6 from my bank every 6 months, but like the Madison Square Garden case is really funny because it's like the private security company that was running Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall. Basically, James Dolan, the CEO of that entertainment group, was mad about a lawsuit. This like, I don't know, somebody got injured at one of his locations, and he used facial recognition software to identify all the lawyers who worked for the New Jersey law firm, and there were like hundreds of them, and they got turned away. So like a mother was bringing her daughter to see like the Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall, and they're like, sorry, lady, and they like escorted her out.
Whoa.
So you could use this technology against your enemies.
I really do want to go to as many live shows as I can in the next couple years, because I feel like it's only a matter of time until like every venue rolls out this kind of facial recognition.
It's also, will this affect them in a way where there's people, you know, that do shows and they don't want to subject their fans to being like uploaded to this kind of bullshit?
Yeah, there's a group of artists that's it's like Artists Against Facial Recognition or something like that. And I've like perused I mean, obviously the big ones are just never going to be a part of anything like that because they're in these giant contracts with these major labels. But there is a group of artists, you know, it includes like kind of like who you'd expect. It's like that guy, Tom, what's his name?
Yeah, Tom York.
Yes.
Whoa, I got it.
Well, I don't know. Is he from Rage Against the Machine?
Oh, I was thinking Radio. No, that's Radiohead.
That's
Tom Morello. Tom Morello,
the guitarist, right?
Yeah, the guy who's like, you know, kind of political. Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if your name is Rage Against the Machine, you better be part of this group.
You'd think so.
There's Boots Riley.
All right, all the communists.
Bunch of nobodies. The rest of them.
Is it public how much money you guys have raised? Because I know Peter Thiel's a part of it.
Yeah,
Thiel's
so
a part
totally we've raised 38.5 publicly and $1 million. Yeah.
So Peter Squeal is someone that's come up a bunch on this show because
you've heard of him, right, Pat?
Maybe. I'm bad with names.
Well, if you were to scan Peter Squeal, his name is Peter Thiel, by the way. Let me make that clear.
Yeah. Do you know Thiel?
That's so
you're like,
funny.
oh, Thiel, of course. So if you were to scan him with the Clearview app, here's what would pop up in some fantasy world where it would actually give you useful information. You would probably see this kind of web of companies that he's involved with, all related to building the beautiful surveillance state that we have here today in the United States of America.
Here and today in United States of America.
We have Palantir, which we've talked about a bunch already, but you know, Palantir was basically a surveillance firm. It's also scraping data from social media, right? They're data mining all of this stuff.
Sweet.
Born out of the aim of like spying on Iraqis, like right after 9/11, like right when the US just started occupying them, and turned into this like massive surveillance software company. whose clients include the CIA, the DoD, the NHS, et cetera, et cetera. Thiel was also an integral part of Facebook's rise, which is interesting, right? Because Facebook is like the rise of profiling and social media and digitizing all this daily life that now is in the Clearview AI database, right? Thiel was the first outside check into Facebook. He was also on the board for a while. What else? Thiel is also involved in this company called Anduril, a major contractor for a lot of the border technology that we're seeing pop up on the southern border right now, like these smart towers equipped with like high def cameras and drones. I did Clockwork Orange myself into watching this like hour-and-a-half panel with former CIA director Mike Pompeo. I mean, the whole panel is out. There's a lot of potential for comedy in there, a lot of things to talk about. But the one thing that stuck out to me, just to take a step back from things, you have the CIA director of the United States of America, arguably the most powerful country in the history of the world, right? And the vibe between him and Peter Thiel is so obvious what the power dynamic is. The CIA director of the United States of America, he's asking Thiel questions like he's the expert. And Pompeo was like the little bitch. But anyway, that aside, they're talking about TikTok, and they actually talk about how like there's so much potential for manipulation on the platform. So it's funny. This was like 3 years ago, but it's just funny how relevant that is today.
I think the thing that's problematic about TikTok is that it again has this sort of incredible exfiltration of data about people. You're sort of creating this incredibly privacy invading map of a large part of the population of the Western world.
Peter Thiel will freely criticize the idea of a surveillance state in the context of China. But it's just so ironic because he is the one doing all of this in the US.
And a lot of people, when they were hearing about this technology in the first few years of Clearview, they were like, this sounds like a Chinese thing to do. But then on the other hand, you have people being like, good, let's do it better than the Chinese. Beat them at their own game, identifying faces. It was like the face race. The same amount of, the face race. You guys like that?
I like that. This is Thiel talking to Mike Pompeo about how facial recognition and AI technologies are really dangerous. Which, again, remember, Palantir is a big AI contractor for the military, and that's one of his companies. And Clearview AI is the biggest facial recognition contractor for the cops and the FBI.
So this is like pillow talk.
I don't know what this is. At best, it's like some sort of weird deflection.
Right.
I don't know if he genuinely believes like the U.S. is just a force for good in the world and, democracy and freedom. And so when we have these technologies, it's just inherently good, But just listen to this. It's just beyond parody.
Yeah, the thing that I would say is tricky about AI is that there are, a lot of aspects of the technology that I think we don't actually want to be pursuing too much because it's AI is what you need for a surveillance society.
Again, Palantir is fully pursuing AI. In fact, if you remember in our Palantir episode, we mentioned how Peter Thiel's co-founder and the CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, said, quote, on AI, we're going to take the whole market.
Yeah, the thing that I would say is tricky about AI is that there are, a lot of aspects of the technology that I think we don't actually want to be pursuing too much because it's AI is what you need for a surveillance society. And AI is kind of communist. And so even though we're ahead from the basic science of AI, China is willing to apply it. It's willing to turn the entire society into a face recognition surveillance state that's far more intrusive, and that's something we're not willing to do. So,
but it is something they're doing.
But it's something he's fully doing. He's here on this panel with, again, former CIA director in the Trump administration, Mike Pompeo, as just a technology expert. There's no mention of his conflicts of interest talking about any of it.
Yeah.
So who's on the board of Clearview AI? Who's on their advisory board? I'm just going to start reading through this list, and you guys tell me, you chime in when a red flag goes off for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Keeping in mind, of course, that entities like the cops and the FBI have no major history of scandals in this country and have never abused their power. Raymond Kelly, former New York City police commissioner, he was really big in the beginning of the anti-terrorism era. right? He was appointed by Michael Bloomberg in 2002. Then we have Richard Clark, who served under Presidents George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush as National Security Council official and the nation's counterterrorism czar and the first cyber czar.
We're beating Russia by making our own czars.
And he was also the National Crisis Manager on September 11th, 2005. No, I'm kidding. 2005. Rudy Washington, New York City's deputy mayor for community development and business services from 1996 to 2001. And guess what he did? He led the initial search and rescue operations following the September 11th terrorist attacks in New York City. Lee Wolosky, an ambassador that served under 3 U.S. presidents in significant national security and counterterrorism positions. Notice how there's no tech experts here. It's all national security spooks. Owen West, who was Assistant Defense Secretary for Special Operations under Mad Dog Mattis. You guys remember him? Trump's defense secretary.
That sounds like a radio DJ's name.
Sounds like a what?
Mad Dog Mattis.
Yeah.
Radio DJ, like morning radio. Is that his actual name, Mad Dog?
No, Jim Mattis is his name, but he was nicknamed Mad Dog Mattis. Why? I can't even remember. I think because he was just like really extreme.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I feel like that's just a good nickname.
Just on the topic of facial recognition, there was a guy who used to work for Boeing. He robbed 30 banks. Former Boeing engineer with a raging heroin problem. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because the way he got away with robbing all these banks is because he knew he had to augment who he was in order to not be caught by like surveillance footage and stuff like that. So he'd wear different like sweaters and stuff over his head and cut little eye holes out, and he'd walk different. And I think he even put lifts in his shoes and stuff. And another thing he did was the way he would get cars is he would go to like flop houses, you know, with like heroin addicts and stuff, and offer them like a couple $100 to borrow their car for a few hours. There was like no way to catch him. And the only reason he got caught was because he got tired of doing heroin. He saw people doing lawn maintenance in the rain and he's like, oh, that's the FBI. He could have easily he's like, no one works in this rain if they're doing lawn maintenance. But he was so desperate to get off of heroin that he was like, fuck it, I'll just get caught. He basically handed himself in.
Oh, he was like, oh, free rehab.
Basically. But it all ties in with all this. So if we want to get away with stuff, we have to wear different sweaters over.
Lifts in the shoes is an interesting concept.
Yeah, he would just augment the way he looked so he wouldn't be able to get caught. And since they don't provide people with like a ramp off of oxys, he was just like, how do I get this?
He didn't know about Kratom.
Yeah.
If only.
That's your only takeaway from this.
Idiot.
Yeah, you say he's smart, but he didn't know about Kratom's pretty popular now. Pretty popular.
Cabbage soup diet would have fixed that.
Cabbage soup and some Kratom.
Would have solved that.
Would have solved that.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Sounds like he had more than one blind spot. I just like how he got away with robbing 30 banks. And they literally couldn't catch a heroin addicted bank robber because he put old sweaters on his head.
But that was like, that was a while ago.
It's 2013.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now Clearview will account for sweaterheads. The New York Times reporter who like dug deep on this story the most, like she found out that cops were just, they found out about the technology and then they were like, ooh, get a 1-month free trial and can download the app and use it for investigations. And there's like no clearance or, no kind of, process that the cops had to go through to just like use this technology. And yeah.
So basically we first found out about Clearview through this New York Times reporter, Kashmir, which first of all, sick name.
And are they still alive?
Yes. Not for long. She did just publish a book about them, so we'll see how long she lasts.
Oh, okay.
But before the book and before she became super famous for it, she basically just like got a tip that this technology was out there, and she kind of set out to find out more about it. And what's funny is when this New York Times reporter was looking into them, they handled things really poorly and they were like really secretive. And then they later hired like a PR expert and then, did interviews and like kind of clean that up a little bit. But in the beginning, it was just looking real shady. Like at one point she went to visit the offices of like one of the venture capital firms that invested in them, and like ran into some people outside the building, and they were like, "Oh, we were told not to talk to you." And also when she was talking to police officers that had the technology and like trying to get them to like kind of show her how it works, when they tried to take a picture of her and run her name through the database to like see what would show up, there were no results found.
And then they called, yeah, they called that police officer and they were like, "Why are you looking for this woman? Why are you," to the New York Times reporter. And then that cop lost his free trial.
No.
So this is where this is, as Kashmir put it, this is how she was first able to learn that, quote, "This company is able to monitor who law enforcement is looking for, and not just know who they're looking for,
shit.
but manipulate the results," right? Because they made it so nothing would come up when they put her face in. And then later, when she, way down the line later, once they hire the PR firm that's like, "Hey, you can't hide from the New York Times forever." When she's interviewing Juan's like kind of being coy about it. And she's like, "Hey, did you guys block me from getting results?" And he's like, oh, it was a software bug." And they're kind of just like laughing about it. But yeah, it's weird. But the key there is that Clearview AI, this private company, is able to monitor who law enforcement is looking for. And, also ICE and the FBI is looking for, and not just know what they're looking for, but manipulate the results. And if you want to consider what the worst case scenario of something like this would be, it's kind of scary. Like also the whole this goes into this larger concept of us just like kind of like outsourcing these like really important decisions to technology.
But as they're getting like more and more accurate and they can claim these like we're 99.9% accurate, then like even if they get a mismatch, people are going to be like, "Well, the software is usually good." So
right,
there's going to be a lot of people caught up in a dragnet of which they have like no relationship to.
And also it's like, I don't even feel like the only concern here is people being falsely imprisoned. Like I think even if it was 100% accurate, I still think this is bad. Like you have this company with the ability to manipulate the results. This company is like Palantir, very aligned with like kind of like Western imperialism and like these like right-wing values. Like Palantir said, we're a company that's meant to help the West. And Clearview says the same thing. Wonton Tat says like, "We want to be a great American company. We're here to help the US government," right? Even though Clearview AI has been sued numerous times over privacy violations, and it is banned in like Australia, Italy, Canada. It's, up and running and thriving in US police departments and US federal agencies. So like, for example, January 6th, I talked about this a little bit when we went on the RM Brown show.
Shout out.
January 6th basically resulted in a bunch of police departments contracting with Clearview AI. And so even though, there are other facial recognition companies, right? Clearview AI is a good one to focus on because it's the major one that's contracting with all these police departments. It says that police have already run nearly 1 million searches using its service. And so it's the cops, it's ICE, it's FBI, et cetera, et cetera. What's also interesting is that Clearview AI last year lobbied a bunch of federal agencies. You want to hear the list, you guys? It's not looking good.
Michelle loves a list. Let's hear it.
The Department of do I? I didn't even know that about myself. Okay. The Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, right, for that ICE contract.
That's fucked up.
It's not great. It's just like it's a weird self-fulfilling cycle too, because the FBI really needs terrorism to kind of continue to justify itself, like domestic terrorism and all that. Like Naomi, you did that story a while ago about like the FBI like creating all those fake terror plots. But it's like Julian Assange said, like, what is the FBI's purpose? It's to like keep growing its budget ultimately. Like that is the institutional goal. and it can't do that unless there's like constantly, terror threats. And so when you don't have them, you gotta kind of nudge them along a little bit.
Yeah, it's like the FBI telling the guy they were making a video, like a jihadi video, like telling the guy to say death to America and all this stuff, and he's like, I just can't do it. And they're like, you're doing a great job. Keep going. There's actually like video footage of FBI informants coaching a guy to do a jihadi video.
That's insane.
So that they could, of course, then foil the plot and then stand at a podium and say, look, we foiled this terror plot. You're welcome.
And it was just like a guy who was really lonely. You like share one ISIS meme and then you become a target.
Did we watch The Day Shall Come together?
Yeah.
That was good. Have you seen that, Pat?
What is that?
You're looking for a movie. Oh, it's a TikTok video. No, it's a movie. You could probably find it on TikTok in like 34 parts. It's a pretty good movie about like entrapment. And then there's the sister movie, which is like the British version. What's that one called? Four Lions.
Four Lions is so good. That's so funny.
Yeah, I have to watch that. That's been on my watch list for a while now.
Watch it now.
Not my watch list, you know. Keep monitoring. I am monitoring this movie.
The FBI watch list. Well, I guess the other thing that needs to be said about Clearview, it's like they always will take credit for investigations, and the NYPD has had to come out and been like, no, we actually just like got a few tips from citizens, like, and Clearview will be like, no, it was our software.
Yeah.
So we we have to be like extremely skeptical when they say that they were helping solve crimes. They constantly will show like in the like
that
there's like a little trailer for the software. They're like, there was a pedophile once upon a time, and he was caught like on a video abusing a 7-year-old, and then he was like in somebody's gym selfie, and that's how they caught him. But, like, do we really know how that's how they caught him?
I mean, I think they did, but I think it's just like that's one success story that's now their marketing story that they repeat every time they go on the news.
Yeah.
Should we close out the episode by watching that little marketing video? I think it's pretty funny.
Sure. Let's see this pedophile. Yeah, it's so funny that this like one pedophile's face became like all of the marketing.
Because they scraped the internet to catch one person.
Are you ready for this, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, are you ready for this, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
May 2019, Las Vegas, Nevada. A web services provider alerted authorities after a user received images depicting the sexual abuse of a young girl. The only clue was an adult face visible in one image. Investigators turned to Clearview AI. Clearview AI is a facial recognition platform. Using this platform, a potential match was found. The suspect appeared in the background of an image. Detectives were able to positively identify the man. A search of his electronic devices revealed that he was creating child sex abuse material to share on the dark web. The man was arrested, and the child victim was rescued. Without Clearview AI, there was no way we would have found that guy.
I think with stuff like this, especially if it's a company that's that big, they should have to offer actual numbers. You can't just be like, oh, we helped here. I helped too, then. I'm going to start making videos about hire me. I helped with everything. I watched every game that last year, and that's why the Denver Nuggets won. NBA championship. If you want me to help your team win, hire me to watch every game. You know, it's like so
and
stupid.
Jokic is like, actually, that guy did really help. He's the number one reason.
That I won. To my horses. It's absolutely bonkers that they're allowed making stuff like that.
Yes, indeed.
I want numbers. I just don't understand why they wouldn't be like, how can we actually use this to make society better? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you even defend your stance when you do stuff like this? It's really crazy. It's like you found someone looking through your phone and they're like, why are you looking through my phone? And it was like, I wasn't looking through your phone. Just be glad I'm not a communist looking through your phone. It's better that I look through your phone than a communist, right? It's definitely not like if someone was like, hey, here's your options for party games and they pitch this as one, everyone would be like, no, we don't want to play this. This is fucking weird.
Well, it's funny you say that because there is a phone app. So like in theory, like there is a cop family somewhere playing this game at a party.
Yeah.
Right. That is nuts.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So yeah, just
Wow.
everyone should just constantly be gaining and losing weight, dyeing your hair, getting prosthetics, getting surgery.
This is not the cabbage diet, but it's like the freedom diet.
Yeah.
It's like what you have to eat and the routines you have to take so you're never you're never being monitored by the government. And it's not solving the underlying issues, right? It's like they keep on making bigger and bigger Band-Aid solutions when if they spent all this time and energy actually like fostering community and providing people with like the trauma therapy they need and all that stuff.
Like a communist
then
right now. And mass surveillance, love it or hate it, it's here to stay. So just remember, a lot of these private companies have big contracts with the federal government. And so like you can't really investigate Silicon Valley without investigating the national security state and like vice versa. And then also the national security state to an extent has like always been kind of a tool of the entrenched oligarchy in the United States. And so when you have a company like Clearview AI owning this giant database of faces, giant data face. Like
data faces.
We have to contextualize it and think of all the potential abuse and not just the pedophile stopping, which is of course uncontroversial and good,
I bet that pedophile could sue in New York City. His image is being used to sell the product.
Whoa. In that video.
Hilarious. Maybe that was part of the deal. He got like a reduced sentence in exchange. They could use him as the success story.
Yeah, there was an asterisk beside 35 years in prison. And it was actually 5 because he agreed to be in this commercial.
He's out in the streets. But if people are interested in this issue, you can check out www.banfacialrecognition.com/map to see what's going on in your city. And then also, if you want to sign the petition against facial recognition at concert venues, this is something, please do this for me because it's going to stop me from being able
I'd like to go to MSG.
I'd like to go to these shows. And I love live music, but as time progresses, more and more of these venues institute this kind of tech, and it really turns me off from it. All right. Love you guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening.
Why did you choose to build something like Clearview AI?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, I never thought I'd be selling to law enforcement, to be honest, right?
3,100 agencies plus.
Yeah.
This is March 9th. Italy slaps facial recognition firm Clearview AI with a $20 million fine. UK Data Protection Authority last November fined the company $22 million. The company also has been banned in Sweden, France, and Australia. That's a lot of countries that are not happy with you.
But these are just the privacy agencies of these countries, right? So they have their own agenda, they have their own belief in privacy, and I don't think they want to be seen as people enabling child traffickers, these privacy commissioners.